Stanford University, the other America.
54, when the Supreme Court's decision on desegregation was rendered. Economically, the Negro is worse off today than he was 15 and 20 years ago. And so the unemployment rate among whites at one time was about the same as the unemployment rate among Negroes. But today the unemployment rate among Negroes is twice that of whites. And the average income of the Negro is today 50% less than whites. And as we look at these problems, we see them growing and developing every day. We see the fact that the Negro economically is facing a depression in his everyday life that is more staggering than the depression of the 30s. The unemployment rate of the nation as a whole is about 4%. Statistics would say from the Labor Department that among Negroes it's about 8.4%.
You know, it's interesting. I don't, given where we are, those numbers, I don't think the current climate or the current political dispensation is not far away from those numbers. If you look at those numbers, I mean, unemployment rate in Detroit is high. In New York, unemployment rate for black men is high. It's almost the same story, perhaps not to the degree that it existed then, but almost in equal measure.
Yeah, the story remains much the same.
Right.
In terms of the statistics, the numbers, the difference is that there is a significantly more African Americans are employed than were employed in those days. And many of them have safer jobs in terms of their ability to keep their jobs. And there are far more legal protections for them than existed 50 years ago. So the situation quantitatively is better. Qualitatively, it's better. But when you look at the statistics in cities like Detroit and other cities like that, which have large African-American majorities, the situation remains much the same as it did in 1967.
Here's Dr. King again. From that speech, The Other America, take a listen.
These are the persons who are in the labor market, who still go to employment agencies to seek jobs, and so they can be calculated. The statistics can be gotten because they are still somehow in the labor market. But there are hundreds of thousands of Negroes who have given up. They've lost hope. They've come to feel that life is a long and desolate corridor for them with no exit sign. And so they no longer go to look for a job. There are those who would estimate.
I mean, and that is true. I mean, there are those who basically said they've given up on life, that there are no exit signs. They don't even go to look for a job because they wallow in that same space over and over again. And I think there is a significant number of people in Detroit who are in that state or who are in that state of life. And, you know, I remember the Detroit News did a story, Bill, about this older African-American woman who actually did not have water in her home, and she was depending on rainwater. I could not believe it when I saw it, because it's something that you only think about in classical times, or even before the advent of classical times, if there was any such thing. I could not believe it, because, and then, of course, we see the stories of poor families getting evicted from homes that in the first place are not even livable, and that no child should live in those homes. And this is happening in Detroit in 2018. So that's the line in that speech about people who are basically giving up because they believe that there is really no exit signs in life for them.
Well, there are those who've given up in the circumstances that you talk about. But there are also those on the other side who are doing well, have given up reaching back to those who find themselves in that circumstance. And so part of it is, and the ultimate gist of this speech is Dr. King is looking at a way to bring the two Americas together. And that's what we need to be about today. How do we figure out how to bring the two Detroits together? Because if we can do that here in Detroit, It can be done all over the country. And Detroit has been a pace setter through the years on civil rights, music, manufacturing, art. Well, we can do that now. So I want to say to folks here in Detroit, don't give up hope. Do not give up hope. But make sure that you are calling folks into the effort as opposed to calling them out.
You know, and I like that line, don't give up hope, because I think in many respects, Detroit has been a gift to the world. Detroit has been the impetus for the aspirations of a lot of people. But the contradiction remains that Detroit has not been a gift to itself.
Right.
When you look at how many people in this city are suffering, when you look at the fact that the city is the largest poverty city in America as of the 2016 census report, when you look at the fact that poor families in this city get evicted from their homes for actually living in unsanitary conditions, when you look at the fact that 30,000 people get warehoused almost every year through the court system, lining up to be evicted from their homes, many of them with no lawyers, afraid and in a state of panic, having kids living in homes that have no heat, no water. But yet, some of us actually want to just gloss over that and talk about how great and wonderful things are when there is such mass suffering in this city. Detroit has been a gift, but Detroit has not been a gift to itself or to herself.
Well, I say this to those who are tempted to walk away. Put down the smartphone, put down the video game, and walk out and help somebody, because the fact of the matter is unless you were helping somebody, you are helping not even yourself. If you can help someone else, then you can help yourself. And that's what we need here in the city. We need a spirit of hope. We need a spirit of reaching out, reaching back, and bringing folks along. And we can do that because we are Detroit.
All right. Attorney Bill Knox here, regular commentator here on this program. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm actually, because of our conversation today, I'm dedicating the entire week of this program to looking at Dr. King's speeches, and we're bringing it live to you with local context, because there is so much in Detroit, there is so much in the life of the city that ties directly to every speech that Dr. King has given about the human condition. And I think it is important. It was Nelson Mandela who talked about the triumph of the human spirit, a demonstration of man's humanity to man. And that question is that statement is a big question mark in Detroit. We'll be right back tomorrow. I'm Banker Thompson.
Since 1996.